We are live. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are in the world. My name is Tanisha Mercer. I help Black women solo travel and move abroad. I've got a lovely guest with me today, Annette
Galanda B.
Galanda B. Galanda B.
Yeah,
And I wanted to talk to Galanda B because she moved from, now tell our viewers where you moved from. You moved from,
I moved from Baltimore, Maryland to
okay.
Cape Coast, Ghana.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. And so we talk about many places where Black women can solo travel, where Black women can move
Hmm.
abroad. I don't think I've had anyone on the channel from Ghana or from the continent. So I am
Oh,
definitely
wow.
I'm loving having you here, and I have so many questions for you.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so you moved from Baltimore, which is one of my favorite cities. I have a lot of friends there.
Hmm.
Um to Ghana. Like, tell me about the
Ghana.
process and what made you decide on Ghana.
So it's kind of a roundabout story. My roommate and good friend who I live with here in Ghana, she comes and goes. She lives between here and New York, this New York State. She doesn't live in New York City.
Okay.
She had been coming and going from Ghana for many years. She's very, very well traveled. And so she came back from one of her trips telling me about this community called Asebu, where diasporans were coming and they had this chief had designated lands for diasporans to come and live.
Wow.
And there was a lot of these popping up, I guess, after the year of return in 2019. But this
Yes.
particular one was specific that only diasporans, people of the melanated hue, could
Yes.
get properties here. And that was very attractive to me.
Listen, we might have to
And
talk.
so,
We might have to talk. We might have to talk about that because listen here.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
at the time, I was newly divorced also.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
like, okay, well, tell me more. So she was telling me more, and the price was very attractive at the time to what I called purchase land, but I have come to learn is really long term lease. You
Long
don't
term
ever
lease.
really purchase land here in Ghana. And so I ended up purchasing two plots in 2021. And so from
Do
that
you
point
mind
on,
sharing what type of price range we're talking about? Do you mind sharing, like, because people
sure.
oftentimes want to know numbers. Like, is there a range?
Okay, so keep in mind this was 2021 and we're
Right.
now in 2025. But
Right.
in 2021, I purchased two 80 by 80 plots for seven or long-term lease for $700 per plot. This is raw land though. Like this is nothing is built.
Okay. Okay.
So just raw land, bush land, really, to be specific,
Okay.
to be clear. So two 80 by 80-foot plots, $700 a piece for a total of $1,400.
Wow. And if you
Mhm.
don't mind me asking, what kind of, and I know construction costs vary, I know all of that, but is for people who are like, you know what, that $700 sounds pretty good. What would a person in the area that you're in,
Mhm.
what's a realistic amount that a person could expect to spend on a built out place?
I'm gonna have to give a guess here because I don't
Okay.
really know the specifics, and I
Okay.
I have also contracted a project manager to kind of work these things out. But
Yeah.
if I had to give a guess, I would say that if you want like a decent, maybe like a two-bedroom ish size house, that you somewhere around 25 to 30,000, you can get one built.
USD? USD?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right.
Now I have a friend who bought in another community, but it was a planned community where all the houses were, a set floor plan and whatnot, and the roads and all the stuff were put in. And I believe that she paid somewhere between 45 and 50,000 for her home. But
Okay.
that was, the set plans, they built it. Here in Ghana, you still have to kind of get some other things yourself, like the air conditioners and stuff like that. But the home itself with the plumbing and the electricity and all of that, Her unit was between 45 and 50,000.
And so that's for a new build, a new home, right?
New build. Yep, that was
New
a new
build.
build.
Okay. What
Yes.
about people who are like, well, I'm not sure if I want to do the long-term leasing and building. What about like rentals? Is that something that is
Rentals vary greatly.
okay?
It varies a lot. It depends on where you live in Ghana, because I think when most people think, "Oh, I'm moving to Ghana," they assume that that means you live in Accra, right? And that's where the one of the major airports is. That's where the capital is. That's where the
Hmm.
hubbub and all the stuff you see on social media happens, right?
Yeah,
It's mostly
yeah.
in Accra. That is much higher than other places, like where I live in Cape Coast or Kumasi or the Eastern region. So the rents can vary anywhere as low as, and I'm not being unrealistic here, anywhere as low as $150 a month, right? USD, the equivalent to be, upwards to 2000, 20 or 3000 even, because I actually know someone who pays quite a bit. $3,000 a month. So it really depends on where you want to live,
Hmm.
and what kind of amenities that you're looking for. Like where I live, I would say I'm in the middle class, considered like a U.S. person would consider this kind of middle class. In Ghana,
Okay.
this would be considered a little bit higher class. We have a two-bedroom, two-bathroom apartment, so you know, and it was very reasonably priced.
Now, how far are you from Accra? Like, are you in like a suburb? Are you a ways away?
No, a ways away. So
Okay.
Cape Coast is 3.5 if you leave really early in the morning hours. If you don't leave really early in the morning and you leave later in the day or midday, it's probably going to take anywhere from 4.5. It may take up to 5 hours, depending. The distance isn't terribly far, but the road in between is shaky, we'll call it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so
Okay.
so that contributes to the time as well, right? Like, of course, traffic from people coming and going, but the road being bad on top of that is what makes it take longer. So if you leave really early in the morning, going either way, you can get to the other side in like 3.5 hours.
All right. So anywhere you said from 150 USD, right, to a
Hmm.
wide range of like 3,000, that 150
Yes.
gets me because I'm like, wow, that's a
Yeah.
nice, a meal at a
It's
nice restaurant,
reasonable.
dessert,
Uh-huh.
and you're talking about for 1 month. Were you
Hmm.
surprised at the dollar in terms of how much things cost? Was that an
Um,
appeal for you?
Well, I was surprised initially, but like I said, my friend has been coming and going for
Yeah,
many, many years.
yeah.
So she had me super duper well prepared, right?
Okay,
In terms of everything. Even, on the continent, there's often what we call lights out, where they just turn the power off. The power just is out sometimes.
okay,
And she prepared me for that. So when I came, I had the appropriate things that if I still needed to do stuff, flashlights, power banks, things like that. Sometimes
okay,
the water doesn't always flow as regularly when you want it or how you want it. So she taught me about, okay, you keep a bucket in the shower because hardly anybody here has tubs. I'm sure
okay,
somebody does, but I haven't seen one. So you
okay,
keep a bucket, that a covered bucket in the shower with water in case the water isn't flowing, so that you can still wash up and do whatever you need to do. And if you do bottled water, which we did initially, but now we have a water filter, you keep, a couple of bottles of filtered water, until the water starts flowing and you can do it that way. So I feel like I was very well prepared because my friend made sure to let me know. And so when people come, I try to share the knowledge that she shared with me with other people so that they can be prepared as well.
okay. Great, great. So you had already talked to your friend. She had been
Hmm.
coming over for years. What was the biggest
Hmm.
adjustment that you had to make coming from the US to the continent? What was the biggest adjustment for you?
The biggest adjustment, that some of the like public services that we
Mhm.
are accustomed to in the US, are not like that on the continent. So I
Okay.
would say like the lack of waste management was probably the largest adjustment for me personally. We have regular trash pickup where we live. However, as a country, the management of waste is very poor. And
Okay.
so that was probably the large. Some people, might say, oh, things are so slow. I'm from the South. I'm used to things kind of moving at a slower pace. And I moved because I didn't want to be in a fast paced place anymore anyway. So that wasn't an issue for me. So I would, yeah, waste management for sure.
Waste management. Okay. Let's talk
Yeah.
a little bit more about like the shift when you were thinking about, okay, where do I go? I want to get out of the
Hmm.
US. Like what was the thought process? You had your friend, right? You were able to
Hmm.
research and ask her. I mean, that's a great resource to be honest with you. Most people
It
don't
is.
have that, right? What was your thought
Absolutely.
process about like when you left, when exactly? When did you leave? You left, was it last year?
So yes, so I actually moved last September,
Okay.
but I had come the prior January for about 40 days to
Okay.
to check it out, right? To see how it was to live. So I didn't do any tour stuff. Like I literally came here with my laptop. I took a leave from my full-time job, but I still worked my part-time job, which is as a consultant while I was here. And that's what I did for the 40 days. Like just lived like a normal person would live, get around like a normal person would get around.
Okay.
And I did it that way. But prior to deciding that I was going to move to Ghana, I searched globally. And because I have been an online worker long before the pandemic, I was
Right.
searching what countries have the fastest internet speed. Like that was my
Okay.
initial
Yeah.
consideration, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had a list of the places globally, like the top 10 places that have fast internet. Okay. What places have melanated people?
Yes.
Okay. What place
Right.
is warm 95% of the time?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
that was those are my criteria for
Okay.
moving. And even with that, and even still now, I plan to be more nomadic than sedentary. Like I'm getting adjusted here in Ghana because
Mhm.
just want to get things together. But once I get it together, I plan to country hop a bit. So go to somewhere else for a couple of months, come back to Ghana. So basically, essentially making Ghana my base instead of the US my base.
Okay. Great. Great. Okay. So Ghana being the base, you hopping around a little bit.
Mhm.
Right now, you're just getting adjusted.
Yeah.
And it's a process, right?
Yes.
It is a process of,
Absolutely.
you know, sometimes it takes a little longer than we think, right?
Yes.
To feel
Yes.
at home. It's a big
Yes.
move. It's a big move, right?
It is a big move. I mean, I've been here for almost 6 months, and I actually just bought a mattress like last week.
Okay. Okay.
So it takes a while.
It does. I totally
Mhm,
get it. So you did the scouting trip. You were in Ghana for
mhm,
that amount of time. And so when you
mhm,
did the scouting trip, like the thought was you would see how you liked it, and you did, obviously.
mhm. I
When did
did.
you mentally, like, was there a time when you were like, okay, I came here, I love it. A lot of times when we're moving countries, we have to make the mental shift, right?
Mhm,
Um, had you already been in a place like you mentioned, you've done the research, you've looked at countries, you were looking by
mhm.
internet speed, you worked online. Mentally, were you ready to go?
I was ready to go before I came to Ghana, honey. Like
Okay.
I was ready to go when I got divorced
Okay.
in 2020. However, there's some recovery and some adjusting to be
Yeah.
done post
Yeah.
divorce, which is what was happening. And then
Okay.
it just so happened that the pandemic came right during that time for me. So
Right.
that delayed things as well. But I had already had the mindset that I did not want to stay in the US primarily any longer. I don't know that I had absolutely decided that I didn't want to live in the US at all anymore, but I knew
Mhm.
I didn't want to live in the US primarily anymore.
Primarily. Okay. Understood.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Gotcha, gotcha. So now you're in Ghana. Like, what does a typical day look like for you? Like, um what does a typical day in the life look like for you?
So I still do work online as a consultant,
Okay.
but I have my calendar blocked off on Fridays. I do not do clients facing
Okay.
things on
Okay.
Friday. I learned
Okay.
that from my initial trip, because the time difference between most of my clients and where I am is 5 hours. So it might be noon in the US, but it's 5 o'clock here in Ghana. And
Right.
that's when it's starting to be chill time. So that wasn't going to that wasn't going to work out for me. So I don't work on Fridays. I try to schedule like client facing meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll do the other 2 days and it's early in the day as possible.
Okay.
So if I have a client facing meeting, I'll do that during those times. But generally, I wake up, it varies between
Okay.
7:30 and 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of, I live very close to the water.
Oh,
So I could go to the water, do a little yoga, lay and
okay.
scroll. It's a very relaxed kind of get up, and go. When I do get up, I have my client meetings or whatever. I usually don't have client meetings, like I said, in the afternoon here. So I might go out to the market. I might meet a friend for lunch.
Okay.
I'm learning the local language, so I might go for language class.
Nice.
And in the evening time is if I have other client work to do, is when I generally do it because that's just when my brain is working a little bit better.
Right, right, right.
Um, so I'll do whatever offline client work I need to do in the evening time. If I know that I want to hang out in the evening time, then I'll do the client work first thing in the morning.
Okay. Now,
And
okay.
yeah, yep.
So culturally, how, when we move to different, cities, countries, continents, all that stuff,
Hmm.
culturally is oftentimes very different. Can you tell
Hmm.
us about, like, just culturally, um, what it was the biggest difference for you? I mean, based upon what you were talking about, it seems that you are definitely living your best life in Ghana. You have made it. Listen, you have made it work for you. But
Yes.
culturally, how is it different than where you came from in the US? Like, your life and what your life looks like.
I mean, culturally, I think for people, at least in my opinion, people who were raised up in the South, Ghana is
Mhm.
not that different. It's very
Really?
similar.
How
Very
so? How so?
similar. Well, one, they are extremely churchy here,
Okay.
very Christian.
Really?
That
Okay.
was a shock for me when I came the first time. I did not realize it would be as embedded here as it is, but it's very churchy here, right?
So what do you
So
mean? Are
that's one
people
thing.
are people going to I mean, I lived in the South for a long time.
Church
People going
church
to
is
church a couple times a
primary.
week? What are they doing?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday,
They're at church.
Saturday, they at church. 3, 4 times a
Okay.
week is normal, right?
Wow.
Yes. And businesses and things like that, you not really getting stuff during church time because everybody at church,
Everybody at
or
church.
a good portion of people are at church, right?
Right. Right.
Um, they do have, even though it is primarily Christian, there are plenty of people here who are also of the Muslim faith. So you have
Okay.
those as well, right?
Okay.
But most people follow some faith. I would say the majority
Okay.
follow some faith. There's not, it's a small minority of people who don't attend some kind of religious services or observances on a
Okay.
regular basis.
Okay.
So that's normal to me. I don't personally attend church anymore.
Mhm.
But I would say the difference is, at least in my experience, I don't get the judginess from not attending church. But it could just be because I'm considered not from here. So they're just like, oh, well, she's not from here, whatever. But the
Right.
judginess you get if you like, what you mean you don't go to church?
Right.
Type of
You didn't go
thing.
to Bible study, you didn't go to choir
Right.
practice? Right.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't get that here. Culturally, what I do like is, this is my experience, um, is that men are very helpful.
Okay.
And I know there's a multiple reasons for that,
Right.
but um, I don't carry bags that much, and I'm by myself, right? They're
Okay.
just polite. Ghanaian people are very polite. Let me say that.
I've
Men
heard
and
this.
women,
I've heard this
very,
about
very
their
polite,
culture. Very polite.
very polite. Probably sometimes too polite for their own good. In terms of
Okay.
sometimes they probably should check some people, but they're
Okay.
very polite because
Okay.
not all visitors, diasporans, people who have moved from other places who come here are nice in their behavior, right? But
Right.
Ghanaians are very nice. So it's really easy pretty much. And if you ask for help, people will help you. Like
People will
it's
help you.
not if you ask them, well, which way to go or which cab do I need to take or which taxi I need to take, everybody is mostly helpful. Now, is it like any other place in the world? Absolutely. There are some areas that you need to be on the swivel a little bit,
Right.
but the vast majority of places that I have been, people are very nice, very helpful, very kind. Um, and not to say it's not like that in the US. It is
Yeah.
in some places. It's pockets of places where I feel
This
like
is
in
true.
Ghana, it's more the norm,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know.
What is it
Um,
like just to be? I mean, I just feel like number one, you're on the continent, but just being on, just around, like everybody who looks like you and looks like
Girl, I
me.
love it. I Do you hear me? I love it. I love looking at black people every single day.
Right. I love it.
They're beautiful all around, like everywhere, just gorgeousness. I love going into the bank or going into businesses and they have locks or braids of their own natural hair
Yes.
or extensions, and all of it is acceptable. None of it is this mess that we have
Yeah.
to deal with in the US. Like everybody,
Yeah.
they might even have like a little baby fro or
Okay.
whatever. All the
Right.
all the hair, natural braids, weave, it don't matter. It's all acceptable. All the skin tones. This is what you see on the advertisements. This is what you see when you go into the bank. Like I said, any kind of business, real estate, whatever it is, restaurants. I love seeing black faces every day. It is very affirming. In fact, even though I know, young women have issues everywhere, I feel like if the young women in the US could see how women are able to move here, a lot of body image issues may not be an issue. 'Cause
Okay.
it's all the body types. And
Okay.
it's okay. At least from my perspective, from the outside looking in.
Looking in.
All of
Okay.
them are okay. They are accepted. Like, maybe I'm not privy to the conversation because I am not fluent in the local language yet, so I may not know what they're saying about everybody, but it looks like all the women are appreciated. Tall, short, skinny, voluptuous, all of them got something going
So
on
we
for
we
them,
are the
at least
standard.
from my
We
we
are the
are the
standard.
standard.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I l-
Absolutely.
I love it. So what about in terms of like, goodness, I got so many questions. So you mentioned you don't speak the local language, and but you're taking
Mhm,
classes to learn.
mhm.
How is it managing that process for you?
So when I first came, I tried to get a tutor before I came back. So
Okay.
where I live, the local language is Fanti. The language across the country could be Twi. Mostly everybody will understand Twi. Some parts they speak Ga, or Elwe, right? But where I live is Fanti, and it's been difficult. Like other places,
Okay.
I have been able to pick up phrases
Yeah.
sometimes here and
Yeah.
there, and I haven't. My ear just isn't picking it up.
Okay.
So I was like, I need a tutor. However, if you ask a Ghanaian, well, how do you say this in your language? They will tell you, right? So if you
Okay.
ask, they'll let you know. They'll repeat it for you 10 times if you ask them. So they're very helpful in that way. But it has not been very easy for me yet to pick
Okay.
up the language. I only know a couple of phrases. I've only had a tutor for a couple of weeks. Um, so when you come, there's only really two words that you know when you first come to Ghana. Akwaba, which means you
Mm.
are welcome. It's in the
Yes.
airport. It's like wherever you
Okay.
come. and then madase, which means thank you. So
Oh,
I've learned a
nice.
little bit more than those two.
Okay.
However, I am working really, really hard over the next couple of months to learn more because I want to be able to communicate with people the way that they communicate on an everyday basis. Now, English is one of the official languages, right,
Yes.
of
Okay.
Ghana, but still colonizer language. It's
Right.
my
Right.
native language, but it's still
Right.
colonizer language.
Right. Right.
And then, I feel at a disadvantage. Everybody else can speak at least two languages. Everybody,
Yeah.
practically.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
met people here in Ghana who speak more languages than that, right? They might speak French because Cote d'Ivoire is right next door.
Yep.
They might speak German because they were overseas.
Yeah.
So people speak multiple languages, and I'm over here with one and 1.75, right? Because I can speak English, I can understand French, although I can't respond back as quickly, but I can
Yeah.
understand when someone's speaking to me. And then I know a little bit of Spanish because of the
Okay.
French, right? Like it's all
Right.
that
Yeah.
Romance languages.
Yeah.
And I know like a couple of words in Fanti. That's it. And people
Okay.
having whole conversations.
I also think the dialect, like you said, English may be the official language, but you've got so many dialects that are just
Yes,
absolutely amazing. So,
yes.
wow, okay. I love it. Now let me ask you another question. So I know you mentioned that you're
Okay.
divorced.
Yes.
Let me ask what the girls want to know. Dating. The men's, like give us the tea of what it's like being
So
where you are
this
in
is this
dating.
is like a double-edged sword, right? Because just to be straightforward and honest, you
Okay.
are attractive if you are American.
Okay. Okay.
Period, point blank, right? Because
Period,
there
point
are
blank.
some perceptions,
Yeah.
whether they may be true or not, on what you may or may not have access to, right?
What
So,
perceptions? Can you talk more about that? Like, is there
girl, they
because
think you got some money. They think
okay,
if you're
okay. I just
American, you
want to
got
be
money.
sure. Okay.
But not all of us got money,
Right.
But that's what
Right.
that is a perception.
Right.
Um, and so if you understand that, I think then it's a little bit easier to navigate. Now, do
Yeah.
all of them think that? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Um, but a lot of them do. There are some people who will actually like you because they like you or whatever. I have been on a few dates. I'm
Okay.
more of a flirty girl. I do a lot of flirting, but then I want to go
Okay.
home by myself.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't want to, be bothered too much. But I have been on a few dates, and it's fun. You talk. It's cool. I don't have any problems with communication. I think that this is a projection. I don't know this for a fact, but I
Okay.
think that as American women, we have this standard of, oh, he got to match me, right? He got to have what I have at least, and it's not exactly like that. Like a man
Yeah.
here, he could be well to do, but it may not be matching you, but he could be very caring, very attentive, a lot of other things. So
That's
I
that's
think
yeah.
if
Woo.
you take away the financial part, like if you can take care of yourself and he can take care of himself, and then you go into it like that, you probably will have a nicer dating life, I'm guessing. Um, because mine is
It's
okay, and that's the approach that I take.
that you take. It's so
Mhm,
different. I mean, I'm here in France. I primarily date
mhm,
um African men. So we're talking about,
mhm,
Cote d'Ivoire, right?
mhm.
All the African countries that France colonized,
Sure.
Senegal, Guinea, or whatever,
Mhm,
okay? And that's the thing. I think that we are American women, Black American
mhm,
women, right?
mhm,
And the dating approach where we are from is very different. It is very much
mhm.
like you said, oh, if you make six figures, he needs to make six figures. If
Right.
you have this, he needs to have this. But when you
Mhm.
move to different countries and continents, it's different.
It is very different.
The advice that we get works for America. right?
Exactly.
It works for America. It may
Exactly.
not necessarily work in the new places where we
Exactly.
are because the income, number one, the incomes aren't the same,
It's not.
right? They're not the
It's
same.
not.
Like you can say this person is, well, I want a person who is educated or has maybe, or trade or advanced education, but that person is not going to make, you may date a doctor. That doctor is not going to make what a doctor
Mhm.
makes in the US, or an attorney, or you know what I'm trying to say?
And one of the things about earning that this is a cultural difference, right? In the US, we're working, working, working to pay for this, pay for that. We
Mhm.
don't really prioritize relax time, rest time. People
We
here
do.
be chilling.
And that's what I
Like
want to ask you
straight,
because you said the chill time.
straight
I was like, let's get to
chilling.
the chill time, the chill time.
Yeah, like you go into, we go into a restaurant, we're gonna eat, hurry up, go to the next place.
Mhm.
Child, you get to a restaurant here in Ghana, it might be 15, 20 minutes before you even order. They might come over to get you some drinks, and then people sitting there talking to each other for like 15, 20 minutes, and then they order, right? And then it may probably take another 20 to 30 minutes for your food to come.
Okay.
You're still talking, you're eating, you finish eating, they talking some more. Like people don't rush to work
Yes.
here. Do
Yes.
they work? Absolutely. But they don't rush to work. And they're not working to um if they're working like, oh, I'm trying to build my house, or
Mhm.
I gotta pay my child's school fees, but they're not working to acquire a bunch of stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
So for example, some of the people that I have dated here are drivers, whether they be Uber drivers or transportation drivers, right?
Mhm.
Because they have consistent income. Not because they have consistent income, but they do. Like they're one of the jobs that they always have consistent money, right? But I've learned from them that Ghanaian women don't like to date them because they're like, "Oh, you're just a driver." Well, in my mind, is you a Uber driver, and I know how much I pay for Uber. So um I understand that your pocket's not light. They might not be heavy, but they not light
Did
either,
not
right?
like.
And you have
Right.
consistent, and you can always make more money, right? um and so I go out, we have a good time, we have some drinks, we get something to eat, we talk, we chill, and it's cool, and that's it. Like I don't expect them to take me on some grand
Mhm.
trip
Yeah.
or adventure or something like that. Although there's lots of stuff to do here in Ghana.
Mhm.
But I think that when you decide to move, be prepared to change how you think about what you want when you want to interact with a person, whoever kind of partnership that you want to have. Like you have to change it because in other countries they do. Like my one friend from the US, he's Senegalese. Child, they don't even get up and come out the house till like 2 p.m. He's like, it's too hot.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So we come out at 2 and all the party happens later, right? Or whatever people are doing.
Yeah.
So the time spent is very different
It's
than
very
in the
different.
US. Yes.
I I
Hmm.
love it. I love it. And it's like you said, it's different. It's like you have to adjust, right? Like
Hmm.
the expectations, you going to the drive-through window at Starbucks, for example, and you
Yeah.
drinking coffee on the go, and then you're gobbling down your food, and then you're working and you're eating lunch at your desk. Like all those things don't happen in other places,
Like
right?
that. Mm-mm.
Like
No.
how we used to
No.
live. I look back on me being here in Paris, and I look
Hmm.
at how I used to live. It's like, mm-mm,
Yeah. I don't ever
no.
want to do that no more. No.
Yeah,
It's a not.
yeah. It does not resonate with me. Do not want to do that again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For
But no,
sure.
but going back to your example, like you mentioned about dating, and it is so different because, like you mentioned, even it depends on where you are because that man
It
could
does.
work at a hotel or a restaurant, and
Hmm.
like you said, plenty of income, in terms of that may be considered a great job, or it's enough income to where
Mhm.
going out, taking you out is not a problem. It's
Not a
just that I
problem at
think that
all.
sometimes when we have the can have the US mindset that, we know that sometimes people who work in certain industries, they are not paid well, right? In
Mhm.
service-based industries in the US are not paid well. And so it's like you have to think about things in a whole different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if let me say this too. If you're looking for somebody who you want to take care of you,
Mhm.
you can get that. That is possible, right?
Okay. Okay.
But that might also come with that they have a wife or another woman.
Oh, oh, hold on. Okay, let's talk about that one. Like,
I mean, that does exist, right? It's not my life.
right.
However, I am aware that you can be kept, so to speak, right? But you might not be the main person.
Does
You
everybody get
could be the main
along?
person. You
Does
could be
it
the main. I
do
think
everybody get along is my question.
I think people stay in their lane,
They
so
stay
it
in their
ain't even a
lane.
matter of get along. At least in
Okay.
what I've observed.
Okay.
There are the outliers, right?
Of course,
But from what
always.
I've observed, people stay in their lane.
Okay. So it's like they're like, okay, I may be number 3, but I'm in the number, right?
Listen,
I'm in
what
the
what people want is different.
This is true. And we have to be
What
honest
people
with
want
that.
is
What people
different.
want and what they want and what they're willing to accept is different, and it varies by person.
And even understanding that what we think that we want may not been have been indigenous to, if we look historically, to the people that we
Right.
come from,
Right.
right? A lot of our ideas of what partnership looks like comes from Christianity,
It
which
does.
we know historically had been skewed for political and power purposes, right? So when you keep that in mind, you think, okay, well, does this really serve me? And I'm not advocating for multiple partner
Right.
relationships. Let me be clear. But you
No, I
have to
understand.
say, does this really serve me or does it not serve me? Or do I really have a problem with it? Or was I just taught I should have a problem with it? Right.
'Cause what
So you have to
right.
kind of like do a lot. I think if you decide to move abroad, you need to do a lot of self assessment and reflection continuously, like a lot.
Absolutely. Because when you think about romantic love and the Western concept, right? Romantic
Mhm.
love is relatively new, right? It's a
Mhm.
relatively new
Absolutely.
concept. It's and when you're in other countries, especially, some countries in Africa, there is often a bride price, right? There is it's
Mhm.
different. Things are different culturally. You are going to meet that man's family. If that man's family does not like you or his mama don't like you,
Then you
most
need to
likely
get
you
the move it
yeah,
along.
yeah, you most
Yeah.
likely are not going to be into that family. Whereas you think
Mhm.
about it, where in the US, I'm not saying that it's not important that you get along with your mother-in-law, but that's not going to probably be the main reason why, you know, you would not get married, right? Like,
Right.
you know what I'm trying to say? The dynamics
Yeah,
are going to be different.
absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, all the kind of same dynamics happen here, but there's a couple more, right? Like I even met a young sister from, I think she was from North Carolina, and she was with a Ghanaian guy. They were not married, but they had two kids. And so she
Okay.
has moved here with the children, and whatever he does, uh, and or his family, they're well to do because they live in an area that is known to be a well to do area, right?
Okay.
And I think she wanted to get married, but his family didn't necessarily like her. I don't know what there was to dislike because she was a lovely young woman to me. But
Okay.
I think maybe they had someone else in mind for him. And he had went off to America and got with this girl and brought her back and had two kids with her. He was taking care of her. He was taking care of his children, but he had not married her. and I think their oldest child was like 6.
Okay.
So she's over here essentially alone with the kids and him. So that's a, if that happens in the US too, it
It
happens
does.
here.
It does.
But the reason that he can, I guess, get away with it here is because his family don't really want him to marry. Because when the family wants you to marry, they're very clear. They're like, you need to get it together. You need to do this. So they're very clear when they do want you to, and they're also clear when they don't want you to. So
Okay. Yeah, the expectations are a little different, right? You know what
it
I'm
is
trying to say?
different. Yeah,
Culturally.
and me as a mature woman, I'm not looking to get married again.
Okay. Okay. Right.
You know, I am 51. Um, I'm not against it, but I'm
Mhm.
surely not looking for it.
Right.
You know,
Listen,
I'm
as
I'm
yeah, as a
I'm cool
50-year-old, I
with
definitely
however
understand.
these things are.
Yeah.
Yeah, however it comes is how it comes. Now, if you are in your younger years and you do want to establish a family, you know, you can do that. There are people who, there's the gamut here. There are people that moved here, they are married to Ghanaians, they have had their children, they are
Mhm.
established in the community. There are some people who moved here as a more mature woman, also married to Ghanaians, but they don't have any children together. They're living a good life. But you have to pay attention to what's going on. Like, don't
Right.
come in here. One of the things that I have discussions with some people is the desperation energy that some people give
Mm.
off when they come here. And so they may get taken advantage of, or they might get hurt because they are not self confident and self contained in their love for themselves. They're
Being
looking for it
single.
from someone else. Yes.
So do
And
you mean
so,
so speak more but a little bit more about that. Do you mean, like, for example, are you saying, because I have heard that, let's say you want to get married, right? If you
mhm,
want to get married, you can just really, like, pick a country where you want to go. You can get it's relatively easy if you want to there,
mhm.
right? But do you think that are these women who are maybe like they want, maybe they want to get married, maybe they want to have kids, are they the desperation part is the thing.
Okay, so I can't speak for maybe the women who want to have kids because
Okay.
I don't really interact with women that age.
Okay.
Most of the women I interact with are like 45 and up.
Okay.
Um, but I think that, some of our experiences have been less than positive with our
Yes.
interactions with men.
Yes.
And um, and we've done some work, but still could use some more work. But people people want connection with somebody. Let me just put it that way. People
They
want
do.
connection with
We do.
someone,
We all do.
and when it has been lacking, and you say, okay, I'm gonna go to a new place. I'm going to be open, but sometimes you're a little bit too open.
Too open.
Is
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
You can be open, but don't be so open that you're making decisions that you wouldn't make if you were in your home country.
That's important. You're doing, like you said, you're moving in ways you would not move in your country.
Correct.
It's a challenge
Mhm.
because you literally are not in your old place, right? And some of the things
Mhm.
that you how you may have moved dating wise may be a little different.
Mhm.
It can be a lot, especially, for example, if that, oh, I got to get married, clock is ticking, or I
Right.
have to have children. It can be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm past both of those things. Like, I'm not looking to, I'm not having no kids at this point, and
Right.
I've been married, but
Right.
I'm not looking to get married again. Could
Okay.
I? Possibly. It
Yeah.
could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but I'm not out here looking for a husband.
And that, I
I'm not
think,
even looking for a
eliminates a lot of
boyfriend for
BS.
real, for real.
That eliminates a whole lot of BS because then you can
Yeah.
listen, you can come over when I need you to come over, and then you can go back to your place.
We can go out, we can have fun, we can hang out
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's it, right?
Right.
Like, I'm letting you know up front. And I tell them too, because they will quickly listen. Here in Ghana, oh, I like you. I want you to be my girlfriend. I want you to be my wife. And I just say, I don't want to be anybody's wife. I don't want to be anybody's girlfriend. Oh, why? Because I don't want to. That's
Right.
it. That's the
That's it.
that's the whole answer. And repeatedly, I'll say it. So it's clear. Now, if you still want to go out, let's
Right.
go. Let's have and we'll have a good time talking about whatever. Maybe a Nigerian movie or something that we saw, or maybe they might be into something, on the internet they want to share. But I
Okay.
make it very clear. I don't want
Mm-mm.
that. Um, but they will add they will child, it can be one or two times and they be
Now
ready to
how
marry you.
often now how often, you know, how often do not how often, but how quickly does the conversation progress? Like, I know that people in other countries, I mean, not just countries and continents, not just in Ghana or Africa,
Mhm.
whatever the continent, but people move a little quick. I mean, they can
It'll
move
be the
quick.
second date. It might be the conversation after the first date. They
It's
don't
like
waste no
it's
time.
like they're here too. It's like they're here. So
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah,
they trying
they
to
don't
lock
waste
it
any
in.
time. Yeah, I think I think that some people in America would categorize it as love bombing.
Yes.
Um, However, I'm not that quick to label stuff. First of all, I'm not no mental health professional, so I can't, be saying that. But I just think that they're extremely assertive, right?
Okay.
They're just very it doesn't feel aggressive to me. But again, that's based on my experience growing up in the South and living in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm accustomed, having lots of friends from New York, Philly. I'm used to kind of aggressive people,
Ye-
so
yes.
it doesn't feel uncomfortable to me, right?
Okay.
But I know it does feel uncomfortable to a lot of people. Like a friend of mine, we both left the U.S. at the same time, and she went to Tanzania first, and I think she's in Kenya now.
Okay.
And she was saying how aggressive, you know, the men were, and they were more aggressive in Kenya, and they following you and stuff. And I was like, girl, tell them no, and just keep walking. And if
Right.
they walk behind you, long as they don't touch you, just
Right.
keep it pushing. Now, if they touch you, that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different
But they
story.
can talk and walk all they want to. I'm gonna tune them out just like I did my nieces and nephews when they were little. I said no, that's it, and I'm gonna keep it pushing, right?
Right.
But that
Right.
assertiveness, sometimes aggressiveness, right, um, can be disconcerting, right? So if you know that you're not a person who handles conflict well, you might want to consider that before you leave the U.S. I mean, there's conflict in the U.S. too, but it's different, right? They're
Right.
they're going to be assertive.
Everything is always it's kind of like everything is going to be viewed or framed in American standards, right? It's what we're used to,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
sometimes the things that you would not do. Like I've been on dates and it's like, "Oh, I'll come and pick you up." And like the American in me is like,
Mm. Right.
mm, right? Like, sir, I don't know you, right?
Yeah.
Because we're taught to know, have especially, first date, second date, whatever, have your own
Hmm.
transportation, you arrive
Right.
to the venue, in your own
Exactly.
thing, you don't know this person. And it does make you reflect on the things that, you were taught and the environment that you're in.
Right. It
So,
does. But I mean, I feel like I've adjusted pretty well. You know,
okay.
I think when I came to visit the first time, I hung out with a guy till like 2 in the morning. I had just met him early in the day, but I
Yep.
also had my pepper spray.
Exactly. Gotta have something on you. Have something
You
on you.
know,
I get it.
I have a person who has my location. You
Exactly.
know what I
That is me.
mean?
That is me.
So
When I send my friend those,
you
like, look, this is his, his info, here's a photo, here's
yeah,
the
so some of
name.
those practices that I still did in the US, I still do here. You just, do them a
Exactly.
slightly different. Like I
Yeah,
might call my friend and tell them where I'm going to be. Well, I have a friend who like I share my location all the time. So at any point in
exactly.
time they can be like, "Oh, that's where she is." Right? Like I
Yep.
think a lot of people too, we get into this idea of, "Well, I don't want people to know what I'm doing." No, I need y'all to know where I'm at. You don't necessarily need to know what I'm doing while I'm there. However, you need to know where my movements are, right?
Exactly.
Because some of the places may be more remote than others, right? So
Mhm.
I would imagine that in France, it's probably more developed, established wise than it here is in Ghana. We have terrible roads here. It's a lot of dirt roads here. It's a lot of bush.
Okay.
Some of the places I don't even. I've been here 6 months and I still don't know what the street name is, right?
Okay.
Of
Okay.
something. I know how to get there. Like I know how to get to places, but I can't tell you about turn left at this street, right at this street, or
Right.
anything like that, right?
Right.
But I can give markers or things like that. But people know my location. And you
Yeah.
just exercise reasonable caution if you're by yourself to do things.
I think that's important. Like you said, I share my location often, right? Like with my family. So it's
Mhm.
like you said, you don't need to know
Mhm.
exactly what I'm doing, but you can access me if you need to. And if there's a
Right.
concern,
So if
you
you
can
don't
pull.
hear from me, you can be like, okay, the last place I saw her was this.
Right.
This where it pinged her, you know.
Right.
Um,
How often
Even
do
people
you
that you do hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was just saying, even people that you befriend here, like you get a trusted person, be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, right? So even you do the manual, you do the electronic, hey, here's my location. But like you said, you also tell a friend, hey, I'm going to such and such. Are you going? Okay, da da da. So that people know, what's going on with you.
It's important to leave those digital breadcrumbs, right? So folks know. How
Mm-hmm.
often do you what about like your friends in the US? Like for me, the culture is different here with French culture, and so it's the friendships are different here. For me, I still talk a lot to my friends in the US. Do you still keep in touch
Mm-hmm.
with people from
I
back home?
do.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I have a group of friends, a women's group of friends that we're like in the group chat. We still in the group chat every day. It's like, I've not left. I just
Like you
respond
never
at a
left.
different time. Yeah,
Right.
it's like I never
You
left. It's just I respond at a different time because of the time zone difference. But I
Yeah.
still talk to them almost every day. I keep in touch, with my other friends, mostly through WhatsApp,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
and family. But yeah, I still keep in contact, but I spend a lot less time online, like live a lot. Like I'm outside. Like if I wasn't on here with you, I'd probably be sitting on my patio or
Okay.
something like that. Like I don't
Okay.
spend I don't believe, even though like I've embarked on some newer things that require me to be visible online, I don't think
Mhm.
I spend as much time online the way, or even talking to friends and stuff like that, as I did when I was in the US.
Okay. So do you attribute that to where you are now and just the different cultural shift? I mean, I would imagine people are not, in the US it's easy to get tied to your phone, right? It's easy to have your,
Hmm.
every like
Yeah.
waking moment.
People have phones here too, and they sit at the table, but I just feel like when I'm out here, I just once I get to my destination, I don't really need my phone like that. Like
Right.
for what? Because I'm talking to people, or I'm just people watching, or whatever I'm doing. Phones are in fact, the phone technology here is advanced,
Very good.
more
Yeah.
than the US. Like what you can do
Yes.
with your phone is far beyond what we do. People are like, "Oh, I'm happy for Cash App." Cash App has nothing on Momo. Okay, like you
Momo.
can pay.
Ooh, Momo.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, Momo.
yes. Momo is a money service from the company MTN, I believe,
Okay.
and you can transfer money not only to other Momo customers, but customers on other networks, right? So if you have a telecell phone or AT phone, whatever, so you can transfer between networks. You can pay your phone bill, you can pay your water bill, you can pay at restaurants, you could pay at stores,
Yeah.
like everywhere. You can have rent, like you can do so many more things with if you have a Momo account here than any of the electronic kind of services. Because in the US, if you have Zelle, you can't send a Cash App and vice versa and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's a non-issue here. That's a non-issue here.
Wow. I know the connectivity is usually much better, right? Like, usually like
Internet is
5G,
spotty.
5G, like, or
Internet,
so?
no, yeah,
No?
no, internet is not great here. They do have
Okay.
broadband in some
Okay.
places,
Okay.
right? When I first came to Ghana, the internet was pretty decent. I used, Wi-Fi with a router, and it
Mhm.
worked pretty good. But right after I left, this was last March, somebody somehow cut a cable in the ocean, and
Oh.
West Africa was screwed. It was Ghana, Nigeria, parts of Cameroon, and the internet was just
Oh, no.
it took it out. It was somewhere in the ocean. They took out a fiber cable. And
Okay.
so that has been repaired, but everybody that I've spoken to says that the quality of internet has not been
The same.
the same
Okay.
since then. So when I came back, it was very much a challenge. And I exhausted every possibility that I could, but I had to break down and get satellite,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay. So that you would have steady access
Reliable, consistent
that you
internet.
need.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because that is a lifeline, right? That is a lifeline.
It
So,
is.
yeah.
It is.
So tell me more about, like, where Ghana has encouraged, like you said, Black Americans um to come there, right?
Mhm.
Where are you in terms of, are you a visitor? Do you mind sharing, like, um
Sure.
yeah, like your
So,
particular status? Do you have like a visa? Like, what is the process, or what was the process for you?
so when I had planned to come to Ghana, I had planned to apply for residency. My original
Okay.
plan was to come in October of
Okay.
last year, and I had all my stuff lined up together to apply for residency. Well, in August, I got notification that there is the possibility for citizenship.
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, okay. So I
Okay.
found out what was and this was through the African American Association of Ghana. Not, they weren't the ones um, who were doing the citizenship, but the notification of the opportunity came
Okay.
from them. So I want to be
Okay.
clear. Y'all don't be going to Triple AG talking about she said I could get citizen. No, don't do that.
Right,
Just the
right.
information
The
saying that
information.
this is a possibility that the government is going to have this opportunity.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
that came up in August, and I did the prerequisite things for that. And then I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I put it out there, not a big thing. And then in the middle of September, I got a message on my WhatsApp saying my interview for citizenship was on Friday, and I got the message on Wednesday. And I was like, what?
What? Oh, that's a good surprise, though. What a great surprise, right?
But I was in the US. I was still in the US.
Oh.
And I
Oh.
was like, okay. Uh, I'm not in Ghana yet. I said, but I could be there next week because
Okay.
I was moving out my apartment that same week. I had
Okay.
to be out of my apartment that same week, but I was going to still be in the US for a month before I came. So I
Okay.
finished, hurried up, get all the stuff out of my apartment. One of my besties, he helped like clear out of my
Yeah.
stuff because I didn't even end up getting everything out. He took care of the cleaning it and all of that.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I let them know that I couldn't make it on Friday, but I can make it next week. They said, okay, no problem. Once you make your travel plans, let us know. We'll reschedule. I let them know. They rescheduled me for Tuesday.
Okay.
So I literally, from cleaning out my apartment or packing up my apartment, went from Baltimore on the train station on Saturday to New York to get a flight to come to Ghana on Sunday morning. And my flight was delayed in Casablanca. So, of course, I immediately, hey, my flight is delayed. They
Yeah.
say, okay, no problem. Thanks for letting us know. They moved me to Thursday. So then I made it late, late Monday. So I probably could have still made my Tuesday appointment, but I was unsure at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
So I made it to Ghana. And so I'm there. It's Tuesday, and I'm like, okay, cool. My appointment Thursday. Then I get a message, from the people in the know, like, hey, can you go for your interview tomorrow? I said, well, I already have a appointment for Thursday. They was like, can you go for your interview tomorrow? Yes, I
Yes,
can. Yes, I can.
absolutely. Right.
Even though I don't have an appointment, I'm gonna take my documents and I go. So I take my documents on that Wednesday, 1 week from my initial notification, and I had the interview, did the interview, went on, and then didn't hear anything for a couple of days. I think it was like a week or so, maybe
Okay.
2 weeks. And then they were like, okay, you can come in for your biometrics. And I was like, okay,
Okay.
all right, I'm gonna come in for that. Fill out this form, fill
Right.
out the form. And I went in and then I'm like, okay, so what's this mean?
Because they didn't
Come to
tell
do
you
the
you had it,
biometrics.
right? They didn't tell you, and
They
they just
didn't
said, "Come
say.
in." Right?
Yes. And so when they get there, you're sitting there like, well, this is the last step, and other than the ceremony. And I was like, really? But it wasn't until I got in there and spoke to, the person, and they were like, yep, there's nothing for you to do. We're just gonna wait and see when the confirmation hearing's gonna be. So I was like, that's it. I'm done. She was like, technically, yes. I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This
So I just was like, oh wow. Okay. And so that was the end of September. So they were still going through the process, going through people, whatever. And it was like,
okay.
okay, we just waiting on to know when the confirmation ceremony is. And in past years, it was in November. So we had an idea that it was probably going to be in November. And then probably about 2 weeks before the actual date, they say, this is the date of the confirmation ceremony. Show up at this time with this. And I went in the confirmation ceremony, and November 19th, I got my paperwork that said that I am a Ghanaian citizen.
Wow, so in a matter of a couple months, you were went from
Yes.
that's amazing.
A,
How
a
does it feel?
visitor on a
Does it
multi entry visa
right.
to a citizen.
How
Hmm.
does it feel? Does it feel different knowing that you are officially a citizen? How does it feel?
It's incredulous. Like,
Okay.
still to this day, like every couple days, I'm like, wow, I'm actually a citizen. I actually, I have an ID,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
even have my passport now.
Okay.
And I think after I got my passport, I was really like this is really real. Like
It's
I knew
real.
it was real before, right? It
Right.
says Ghanaian on my ID and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But the passport was like, wow, like I
Exactly.
have an obligation now to represent this country in a way, in a positive light, to be a contributing member. Like, this is real stuff. Like, this is not for play. And
Wow.
I think that that's what came to me. I mean, I never thought it was, but it really hit after I got my passport. I
Okay.
shed a few tears. I definitely, once I
Oh,
got my passport, I was like, I just cried because I was like, I can't believe this. Like, I'm
wow.
actually a citizen. And then, of course, lots of people are like, well, how would I get my citizenship? How to get my citizenship? And I'm like, what you want it for? What's your
Mm,
purpose?
mm.
Because I had bought the plots of land. I had already in my mind had was working toward being a productive member of the community at some point, right? Like, so it
Right.
wasn't like I was coming here to just party it up, and you know
Right. Right.
it wasn't even in my mind to become a citizen initially. I just wanted to get residency because I
Right.
had my plot of land. And then if citizenship came after that, okay. Um, so now when people are like, well, how do I get my citizenship? And you just had one visit or two, I'm like, for what? What you want to do? Because there's a lot of work to be done here. Like,
Right.
there's stuff that they need people to contribute to improve the country. So how you gonna do that?
What type of work would you say? Like what types of things that, you
In
know,
every area,
okay.
IT, waste management, agriculture, education,
Mhm.
every area.
Okay.
They could use even construction, and I'm saying construction in terms of schools, government
Mm,
buildings, basic needs. There are villages that don't have clean water and need boreholes,
okay.
right? So there's a need in every area. It's just a matter of the person choosing where is best for me to contribute, where is best for me to put my skills to work. So so by trade in the US, I'm an IT professional, right? That's
Okay.
what I did to make my money to pay my bills. I was sick of it. I did not want to do that anymore, right?
Okay.
When I
Okay.
left. However, since I have been here, I have been less resistant to possibly using those skills to help contribute, right? There's other ways that I'm working to contribute,
Mhm.
but I'm less resistant to it because I do have that experience. I do have that knowledge. And if
Yeah.
it comes up to a point or opportunity for me to share where it could positively impact, I'm going to do that. Whereas before, I was like, I ain't doing nothing IT. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. I don't want to do it anymore, right?
Right.
But after I've come here and you sit, you listen, you learn some history, right? You pay attention to what's going on, then it's like, okay, maybe it might be okay for me to do it here, right? Because I will be honest, I was tainted. I worked for the federal government, I worked for state government.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
things
It's
that go on when you do that that
it's
makes you
trauma
like
associated with
something
that.
that you yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
it's trauma.
Even for things that you love to do,
Yes.
after working in certain environments, you're like, I don't want to do that no more, even though you loved it initially, right? So
Right.
there's opportunity. So I'm less resistant to it. Now, I'm not promoting it, but I keep my eyes and ears open, right? I still try to stay connected in that way in case that I can. I have chosen here for wellness to be more of what I would like to do to contribute um, in terms of the wellness practices. Like since I've been here, I completed some naturopathic clinician training here in
Nice.
Ghana. So that included um, hand and foot reflexology,
Okay.
another variety of Reiki, detox therapy, aroma touch therapy, sound therapy. And so adding that to modalities that I already had as a yoga instructor, a meditation instructor, a Reiki practitioner, and a crystal practitioner, all of that together, I can provide a whole, and then a coach, right? Like I've
Right.
been trained as a coach, not just I'm out here, I just decided to call myself a coach. I
Right.
actually went through hours of training and can produce certificates if need to be to say, yes, she completed the training. Um, that's where I would prefer to use my energy. But if IT stuff comes up, I'll do it. If technical, like for example, I'm partnering with a Ghanaian business owner who is offering business consulting services to diasporans.
Okay.
They've been in business here for 30 years. They know
Okay.
what to do, how to do, where to do, pitfalls, all of that. They have amazing content, but they don't have the knowledge of how to share that content like in a course or membership, which I'm
Mhm.
very familiar with. I
Right.
know how to do that. The marketing of it, I know how to do, but I don't want to do, right? They have people here in Ghana who know how to do marketing for that stuff. But putting together the course for her, helping her understand, this is how you do the modules, how she can do
Mhm.
webinars and all of that. I can help
Yes.
her do that. And that's
Yes.
what we're partnering to do because she has expertise and knowledge that diasporans need, 30
Mhm.
years of it, that could
Yeah.
help them be successful if they decide to open businesses here in a shorter time frame if they contract her services, right? And then they
Okay.
could be successful as well. So I'll lend it to something that, but it's a case by case basis. I am not
Right.
um, I am not promoting myself as an IT professional. You know, I'm a certified project manager too, but I am not promoting, at least not currently,
Mhm.
my services as a project manager, even though I keep up on all that stuff. Like I do the trainings, I,
Okay.
do the articles, read things. So I keep up with those skills, but I would just prefer to help people with their emotional and mental.
and mental needs. It
Well-being.
it sounds like, I mean, so basically you went from one place to another and you've really built
Mhm.
like the life that you want, and that's why I thought you were a great example for the starting over series, because literally that's what you've kind of done, right?
Yeah.
You've started
Yes.
over in a new continent,
Yeah.
um and doing all the things that you want to do, how you want to do them. Like you mentioned, you've got this IT background, and it's like, but you're not promoting that. But if you see an area where you can help, of course,
It,
right?
yeah, and we have, um, it's funny because the US and Ghana had elections right about the same time, right? Within a
Okay.
month of each other. So there's a
Hmm.
new administration here as well, right?
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of people that got let go as the new administration brought their people in here as well.
Mm, okay.
So there's a lot of change
Yeah.
happening where the focus might have been for the previous administration. This focus has shifted, and that focus shift may be in an area that now, as a Ghanaian citizen, I can positively contribute to. And so that's why I'm staying open to the things and not saying I'm not going to do anything anymore, but
Right.
just, you got to keep your eyes open. It's the other thing I would say about moving abroad, really, even if you live in the US, you got to keep learning. You got to keep your eyes open on what's happening with it. You
Hmm.
can't be stagnant and just say, okay, well, this is just what I'm doing, and that's it, and that's fine. You really gotta like pay attention to what's going on around you.
Around you. Okay. Any other
Hmm.
tips you have for members of our viewing audience, Black women who want to, move to Ghana or elsewhere in the continent? What advice would you give them if that is on their list of things to do? What would you say?
I would say if you want to leave the US or even the UK, right, any kind of those Western
Hmm.
countries, is start to find your happiness in less stuff,
Mm,
less
mm,
doing,
mm.
more being. Um,
Ooh,
I find that we do a lot of stuff, right, in the
yes,
US
yes.
and the UK, but more time being just sitting, enjoying looking at the water, just sitting, enjoying listening to the music. Spend more work on being open to being more than doing. Especially if you have the means, the financial means, you've done your appropriate planning in that area. Don't hyper focus on I got to make money for this, I got to make money for that, you know,
Yeah.
type of thing, because you miss out on a lot of just simple pleasures by doing that. And don't do stuff in the other countries that you wouldn't do in your home country.
Okay. Okay.
Don't be
Gotcha.
moving far out away from you wouldn't move to a remote area in the
Hmm.
US. Don't do
Hmm.
that when you come here. Find a community. Live around the community people first. Like, check it out. Don't so just
Find your
don't
community, find your
become
tribe, right? Like find
yeah,
your
find your
people.
tribe. Yeah, don't be brand new and be like, "Oh, I can do it all by myself and be out here." Mm-mm. That's the when you move is not the time to do that. It's not
And
the
and
time.
and that's often a very much a, a Western concept, individual, I mean, especially American concept.
Mhm.
Individual, being individuality, right? Individualism. I can do it all by
Mhm.
myself, right?
Mhm.
So, how can people who
Yeah.
want to stay in touch with you, how can they, or what are some ways that they can keep in touch with you if they're looking at moving, perhaps, you know, going to Ghana, or they're looking at your services that you offer? What is the best way for people to keep in touch with you?
Sure. So I am available on Instagram the most, Galanda B. I am on Facebook as Galanda B as well. I'm just not as active there. And my website is www.galandab.com. That's GALANDAB.com. So any of those three places, you can get in contact with me from, I think from the Instagram, you can email me or even WhatsApp me if you like. So I'm happy to hear from everyone.
Thank you so much, Galanda B. I'm gonna make sure that I put your contact information in the caption of
Thank
this
you.
video.
This
Thank you
has been
so
a
much for your
pleasure.
time. Enjoy. Thank you.
Yes, you're
All right.
welcome.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.